Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Goodbye Bullshit, Hello Happiness. This is the Magical Curiosities edition with my co host, Sarah. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Before we get started, as always, I'd like to just let you guys know if you want any of the artwork that you see behind me, or more of them that are not in this screen, or any of the shirts, sweatshirts, the mugs, go to my website, go under shops, and there's a link to apparel, which is my Etsy shop, and also the print shop, which has the artworks. And so today, getting to today, for Magical Curiosity, Sarah and I were thinking we wanted to talk about how do you allow the flow of life rather than controlling everything. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Just to get us started, human nature, because of fears that we've had growing up, passed down to us, doesn't matter, just fear, we've been sort of accustomed, have built this habit of wanting to control everything because we feel if we don't control it, basically shit's gonna fall apart. And then we're responsible to fix it anyway. And the stress of fixing it, and a lot of times, because many of us feel not loved, not accepted, not supported, we're trying to control things even more because we feel everything falls on our shoulder. And I already have all these things up in the air. And so I need to make sure everything goes in a way because at the end of the day, I'm responsible to fix it. So has to follow, and we plan and we try to outmaneuver things and think about like down the road all the possible things that may or could go wrong that we might need to course adjust. So it's just all this things about coming to get us to control things out of fear, control life, control things. And we plan too much ahead, and we plan in certainty, not leaving any room for adjustment, for growth, for shifting, for possible things that life is going to flow. Life needs to flow. And then we become resistive to that flow, which causes all the anxiety and stress and other things that are happening. Thoughts on that so far?
Uh, it's a lot. And yes, I mean, I, th- okay, I'm just going to kind of grab onto one thing. So let's just talk about like this idea of planning ahead. It's funny. I've come to realize that one of the most difficult things for me, not just in my teaching job, but also in this presidency of the Music Teachers Association, is this having to think like a year ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And this, you know, it caused me a lot of stress because I think just by my own nature, maybe. I mean, I think some people are sort of more okay with it than others, right? I think for myself, I've always been somebody who wants to have the ability to kind of just pick up and do whatever. But I realized over time, I just narrowed and narrowed and narrowed and narrowed my life to where there really was this one template for what it looked like, and that it was so rigid. And that if I fell outside of that rigid structure, that, as you said, all hell would break loose, right? And that I'd be left with an even more stressful situation to try to clean things up. And, I think a lot of us, for our jobs in particular, this is a place where finding your breathing room isn't always necessarily easy, especially I think as people who are looking to have approval from others, we also want to appear as if we have everything under control. So it's this weird two-tiered thing. It's like what we have inside and then the pressure we're feeling outside to have a certain presentation, particularly in the workforce. I think that that's true. And what's really funny is I find the more that I can try to only think, I wake up and I'll be like, okay, well, what does my day at this moment look like? Okay, here's what it looks like right now. And I just kind of start doing whatever feels good in the moment. And I kind of just follow my interest. Oh, I'm going to write this check now. Oh, I think I'll go and check my email. Or, oh, I need a shower. I'm going to take a shower, that kind of thing. And that the more that I do that and just kind of keep an eye on the time, it's also weird that like, I don't run late like I used to. Can we talk about the panic that ensues from lateness?
Yeah.
I just think that's a great example, like a very specific example where, I would be panicking about getting out of the house. And then, of course, I'd be slow because you can't think when you're in that panic state. And then I'd be in the car and trying to drive and I would freak out about every little thing that happened along the road. And then I'd get to the student's house and I'd be trying to like be present and teach, but like I'm stressing about, wait, am I going to be able to make up this time? Right. It's this, and it's like, it snowballs through the day. So by the time you get home, you're just like this horrible stress ball, and living in that stress ball state obviously is not healthy, is not comfortable, and is not in any way joyful. And so I'm letting myself now, if I'm late, I go, okay, I'm late. I'm going to enjoy my drive there. Honestly, most of the time it ends up being like 5 minutes. It's not the 15 or 20, right, that would happen in the past. Or sometimes I'm not even late at all. I'll even text them and be like, I think I might be late. And then I get there and I'm right on time. And every time that happens, that right there is my reminder that this is the way to be, right? That this just letting whatever happens. Oh, there's an accident. Okay, I'll call them and let them know, and then just kind of do whatever until I get there. Or I'll miss an exit, and I'll be like, oh, interesting, and then I'll just go. I don't know. So I think that letting go part.
It's funny. So there were a couple of things I wanted to bring out in what you were saying. First of all, I think you and I have, or the people that work for themselves, they have a special, it's a little bit easier, I would say, to follow that flow because it is our business. It is, especially, we are in charge of what we're doing. So it's mostly. A little bit, mostly, yes.
I'm just saying,
but like you're not in like a corporate environment that so corporate environment, it's different than having your own sort of practice or work that you're doing. So to break that up a little bit for people that would say, okay, so how does this work for the corporate environment?
Yeah.
First, one other step back is that I've gotten this a lot from people that they ask, that they say, well, things are just easy for you. You just don't, it's like, I don't live in the real world. It's not that. It's like, at some point, I was living in that world as well. And I shifted because that, and coming back to my tagline, transform your reality, choose to see magic. That's what this is about. If you keep getting stuck in that reality, then you're not allowing yourself to shift because you're saying this is the only reality and things have to be this way. And I'm here to tell you, I was in that mindset. And when I started shifting, things started to shift. And it wasn't like I didn't have responsibility. I was a single mom. I was responsible for everything and, bills and all those things. I needed to have an income. I needed all these things. And yet, allowing that flow and connecting with that flow, that meant the flow of abundance, which includes finances, money, the flow of time. which allows for those movements of what you're talking about, whether it's like, well, I'm late. When my clients text me that, oh, I'm running 5 minutes late, or there's traffic, I'm going to be late in a few minutes, I always laugh. And I said, first of all, you don't need to be sorry. Just get here when you get here, And if it's like way beyond like 30 minutes, even then, we decide what to do. But it's always for a purpose. It's always for a reason. The client doesn't know this, but on my side, I'm sitting there like, oh my God, I just need like 5 extra minutes to just sit here and be. And when I've asked for that, can I have like an extra 5 minutes to just sit and be? My client is texting me, oh, by the way, I'm running a little bit late. So, and that is part of the flow, where when you're going with the flow, everything is working out for everyone involved. It's not just you. You're going with the flow and you might be running late. And on the other side, they're like, oh my God, I wish I had 5 more minutes.
Actually, I just want to say, I totally have experienced that all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why I've stopped caring, because I'm realizing that, like, oh, well, maybe there's something on their side that they need some time, and I'll just get to enjoy this moment. Fine.
Exactly. When my clients every time my clients cancel, and there's sometimes they've canceled in advance, and I'm trying to fill a certain slot, and it's just like, it's not fillable. I'm like, okay, then it's for a reason. And when that day comes, I'm not stressing, oh my God, I'm losing money, I'm losing this, I should, have somebody there. Every time that has happened, that day when it comes, I'm like, now I see why this slot was open.
Yes.
Because something was needed to happen. There was some kind of emergency that day. I needed to do something else, and that's why that slot was open. So that is going with the flow, and you can plan. I mean, like, we certainly plan things and we certainly schedule clients, but that flow allows for adjustments, like clients canceling, clients moving, you needing something, and the shifts that happen. And the same is true for the corporate world. Yes, in that structure, you can still find that flow within that structure. Within that structure, there's a shifting that can take place if you allow for it to be. You'll see it, and you'll help. You see, you're helping your coworkers too fall into that it's okay. We're all part of this flow. We're all part of this movement. So how can we flow and shift together?
You're pointing to something so important, which is, I think, for a lot of people, maybe one of the first things that leads them into sort of accepting a larger, bigger picture is the synchronicity. And I feel like that's sort of a lot of the times the first touchstone. And I have friends that work in corporate settings, for the government or whatever, and that they're finding that as they are able to shift their mindset, that definitely the people around them are responding differently. I mean, sometimes it's even like, oh, I really have trouble with this one person. We just don't communicate well or whatever. And that as they kind of just shift their perspective and how they deal with this person a little bit, that the other person changes with them. And then all of a sudden, a few months later, they're actually having a more productive, fruitful, relaxing, right? Like less stressful interaction. But those synchronicities, seeing the result, or seeing a pattern of something that, hey, it seems like every time I'm more in this mode, right, mode A as opposed to mode B, then there seems to be this pattern of things that seems to happen alongside of that. And I think when you start to see that constantly, daily in your life, it's hard to not feel that magic. Sorry, I'm just getting excited thinking about it. Like it's really hard, at least for me, to not every time something, even now, right? Like even little things, seeing the birds, I'm like squawking at them and like yelling at them, what you doing? And being able to live in that more joyful moment, let me just say, that's half of what we're talking about too, I think, is allowing yourself to experience the joy that is around us all the time. And that with this fear and anxiety and sort of being tied into this realistic, narrow world, honestly, a lot of us are just starved for feeling connected to something bigger, whatever that means to you. And once you move to that place, it's just easier to live.
It is. And again, it's going back to the corporate world structure for people, because I think that's where most of the people get to struggle more with those deadlines and working with other people. And how do I get this model that you guys are talking about in that environment? How do I yeah, it's fine that you have the time to get out and go for in the middle of the day, take your dog for a walk, or you're going from client to client and you get to be out there. What about me, that I get up and I'm in the office and meetings after meetings and I have deadlines and I have to do presentations, and how does that look like? So for in that environment, there is still a flow and there is still magic when you connect with it. First, you got to go inside. First, you got to stop that anxiety, all that stuff that you have your mind set on, that it has to be a certain way, it has to work this way. When you go in there, sort of bringing your own magic to that environment, bringing your own magic means being truly who you are, being comfortable in your skin, and again, allowing that flow gives you that opportunity. Yes, the meeting starts at a time and ends at a time, and you're in a meeting, but do you have to really be stressed while you're in the meeting? Do you have to be stressed because there's all these meetings back to back, and okay, I have the meetings, I got to go from meeting to meeting, there is a deadline. Now, how can I do this in a way that's easy and aligned for me? When you ask those questions, when you go inside and find that way, then you allow other people in the meeting to do the same. You allow that flow into the work environment. And also, a lot of times too, if you have a deadline for a presentation, and if you cannot get your mind to do that presentation, what's the point of sitting there and stressing? Shift, see what feels good, go do something else. Even if it's 5 minutes, we just think like, oh my God, I don't have time for that. Whereas, okay, you're not being productive anyway.
Yeah.
Get up, go do something else that feels good to you. And that shift and change allows you to come back and be productive and do your presentation or get ready for that meeting that you want to get to. But because we've trying to control things, no, I have to finish this at a certain time, that means I got to sit here and force myself to do this. That all makes it's not going to flow, it's not going to move, and it brings more stress.
Well, I was going to say that sounds exactly like me like 6 months ago. That literally every project was so hard because I do a lot of like things for either the Teachers Association or like for the music school that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to say, it's so funny. Even just over this weekend, I had been feeling the pressure, but not kind of just letting it roll off me a little bit about several very big projects that I had to do. And I had this meeting that I was supposed to go to on Monday morning, and I was kind of, it was like a deadline. I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to get it done before then. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this because that's what I feel like I can do right now. And then the next day it was like, you know what? I can't, I still can't. So I'm going to do this other thing instead. And just kind of slowly working my way through the millions of things. We all have this like invisible pile of stuff above our head, and we have to be okay with that. Can I just say that this idea that you have to accept that your inbox will never be empty, and that's okay. Like and that what happened was, randomly the night before I discovered, oh, the meeting just got canceled. Huh, interesting. So the next day, one of the projects I've been putting off for like a week because it was just too hard, I got it done. And it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, yes, I really will get things done, but I really need to just let it happen when it can happen. And I will say that it feels extremely different to be in a moment where you say, okay, I can do this now. Let's do it. And then you get it done, and it's quick and it's easy, and it's not nearly as painful as when you're sitting there being like, right? Holding on. It's the holding on to it. And part of it is, I think, you mentioned going inside, which is ultimately right where everything happens. And I feel like the people I know who are working on involving their magic in their daily life, that was sort of the first step, was them also seeing what not to get involved, like what not to engage in with the people around them. I feel like that's kind of step number one, right? First, you got to be cool with you. And then and then when you're cool with you, you have to make sure that when you're interacting with people that you may have to interact with, right? We all see people on a work basis that we don't necessarily like or love or whatever. And then once you stop engaging in some of the energies that are sent towards you, and you're like, you know what? No, that's cool. I'm going to just put that over here. I don't need to deal with that. I feel like that's really when people around you start noticeably shifting. I don't know.
Yeah. No, one thing I was going to add to what you were saying is that when you're going inside, again, don't get stuck that my reality is not going to change. My reality is, because I think a lot of people keep saying, well, I got to work, I got to make this much money, and I got to do this job. This is the only thing I trained for. So that was me. That was me back then that said, I cannot see myself doing anything else. This is like what, 13, 14, whatever, however many years ago. I can't see myself doing. I need money. And in order for me to have this much money and pay for everything, I need to be doing this job. And this job requires. So I had all these rules set up that were based on this reality, which I didn't like anyway.
Yeah.
But I was putting that as my reality and forcing it as a reality, and not allowing for me to even wonder, well, what is it that I really want? Okay, let's leave this here. Now, let me go to my magic world. And in my magic world, what do I want this to look like? What do I want this to feel like? And then how do I go from here, merge it into this? So I think people get stuck in this reality and think, well, there's no way. That's like Fantasyland. Fantasyland is not going to happen. Yes, it does. If you want it to happen and you bring it in, it will happen. But then going in, first clearing out that clutter that's there, that's giving you all those fears and anxieties, releasing, as the more you release those fears and anxiety, allows you to shift, and then opening yourself up to magic, allowing, hey, I want this. Universe, show me how I can get there. This is where I want to go. But if you keep saying that, no, this is it, and I don't see a way, then you're not going to see a way. And you're not, again, that control, you're not allowing the flow for the universe to show you, hey, this is the way there. And if a lot of times when we get stuck in those jobs that we don't want, people say, well, I don't want to be doing this. Well, if you don't want to be doing this, you got to spend also time and allow for what you want to come in. Without allowing that to come in, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. There's so much good stuff in there. One of the things I wanted to pull out. Oh, is it going to stay with me or not? Let's see. Oh, it was about being just because this is a message I received not that long ago that hit me in a different way than I had, which is this idea that we are the creator of our own universe. Mm-hmm. People say this all the time, right? Like, I feel like that's something you hear. And I think when you're first kind of starting on waking up a little bit out of that rigid place, I don't think that feels possible. And I just want to point out, I think it's because in that we're really just we cannot always see all the choices around us, especially when we're in that fear place. So if somebody says, right, like I don't want to be doing this job, is what I have to do for money. And then you go, well, what are your other skills? What else can you do? What do you enjoy doing? Right. And then slowly find a way to make that part of what you do. And that sounds so hard. And I mean, in the beginning, especially, it is hard. Like, it can be challenging and difficult, but the reward you get from living a life that you say, yes, right? Mm-hmm. This is what I want. This is the energies I want in my life with the people around me. This is the environment I want with the community around me. This is the land that I want to be around, whether it be beach or, lake or whatever. And I personally am only just sort of becoming astounded at how many choices there really are and about how many possibilities there really are. And it's just not it's not a perspective that I had ever. And I have to say, it feels the freedom. That's really what we're talking about ultimately, right? Mm-hmm. This freedom to be you, this freedom to live the life you want, this freedom to have people and the land around you that you want.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. It's right there.
But the thing, I think people also get bogged down, at least when I see them, is not being able to let go. Fear is the biggest thing right now. Mm-hmm. And if I were to say, grab everything we talked about today and do something for yourself, is find those fears that you have, make peace with them. See where they started with, where they originated, why those fears are there. Those fears are, there because of, how you grew up, or how, your parents taught you life is, or again, going back to other people's rule books. So find those fears, look at the root of that fear. Each of them have a different root. And that's where you need to do the work internally to release it and know that I am safe. I'm safe in this moment, really, because we think we're not safe because we're saying, oh my God, down the road, this is going to happen and this is going to happen. Well, down the road, it's not right now. Right now, I'm safe. Even I can speak to that again for my own experience. House was in foreclosure. It's me and my son. And my biggest fear was I'm the shopping cart lady, or I'm the crazy lady that's alone. And, So those fears would come. And I had to remind myself, even with all this happening in this moment, I'm still sitting in my house. I still have my son. I would remind myself of all the things I still have in that moment that I'm grateful for, that I appreciate. Even in that moment, I would feel my abundance. And then from that safety place, that abundance place, I would release the fear that, hey, I'm not going to, this fear is not part of my reality. It seems real, but it's not part of my reality in this moment. And that's what I'm talking about, letting go, letting go. And I trust it. That's the second part of this, what we're talking about, that letting go of control and allowing the flow. You got to trust. You got to trust that in yourself and the universe. That trust gets built over time. And that trust with that reminder that I'm safe in this moment. And sort of like, can I just open up a little bit? And then you start recognizing, hey, look at this. I said I was safe. I let go of the fear. I trusted. I opened up a little bit and I got this thing. All right, can I try this again? So it's like a step by step, getting that confidence there, getting that trust built up, that then you start to shift and shift more to this place that you're changing your reality. Because it's not a big leap, it's not a one step, it's just those little steps that finally get you there. And yeah, at that moment it's very scary, but then that's the internal work that we're talking about here. I feel that we need to be doing.
Can I say about the gratitude?
Oh
That
yeah,
gratitude
gratitude.
and the trust are so like they're so intertwined that I feel like the more gratitude I have, the more I see reasons to trust. Because I'll be honest, that was one of the biggest, hardest things for me in the very beginning. Was I was very cynical, right? I had no trust for people or the universe. I was like, nope, especially the universe. It's always messing with me, right? And that's the way, that was the perspective that I sort of was raised with, and the perspective of people around me. And then I, grabbed onto that and internalized it. And when I started, instead of saying, this goes right back to what we were talking about in the very beginning, right? It's like this, of course, like there's going to be an accident because I'm on my way to work and I'm already late. And of course, and instead saying, it's a practice to take time or take a breath, right? This is like a moment where it's like, okay, I get to practice taking a breath. And I think just as a starting step, trying to just, right, that's a good first practice. I feel like that I did in the beginning was trying to change my perspective about the things that happened to me and say, it's in the long run, this is all going to help me see something different and something better.
Yes. That's the key point. Everything is happening for you. If you shift your mindset, that gratitude that you're talking about, thank you.
Yeah.
There was an accident and I'm late. Thank you.
Yes.
Because I know this is serving me somehow right now.
Yes.
Not just me, but everybody here.
Yes.
Thank you. Whatever life is coming to bring you, again, I'm speaking from my own experience too. It's not pleasant. Sometimes those things that are happening, it's not that, oh yeah, so you can be happy for those good things that are coming to you. No, there are things that I absolutely are like, oh my God, what is this? Like if it was my old mentality, I would just like have a meltdown, cry, and think my life is over.
Yes.
That's how I would treat those things before. But now when they come to me, I'm like, I open my arms and like, thank you. Okay, let's go see what is this about. What are you giving me in this? It's just even I get sometimes excited. It's hard it's probably a lot of it too. You know, I always tell everybody when my mommy person gets triggered, that's all emotional stuff when it hits Ilya. But I'm even in those moments, I'm like, thank you. Let me open my arms. I received this. Let's go in there and see what good stuff you're about to give me in there. What are those experiences that I get to clean out in me and shift into a different perspective? And so the gratitude, thank you for bringing that out. And let's take it to the next level. It's not grateful for those, oh, thank you for my house. Thank you for, yeah, be thankful for those things too. But thankful that, hey, thank you that I'm stuck in traffic right now.
Yes.
All right.
I love
I
it.
think
That's perfect.
this is a perfect moment then. Sarah and I agree. We're going to call it wraps here. We finished at a good note. Thank you guys for joining us, listening to this later. As always, please subscribe, like, share. And if there are topics you guys want us to talk about, or if you have questions, put it in the comments. We'll get back to you. Text, email, all that information is on the social media, on my website. So please reach out. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks. It was awesome as always.
Love you all. Bye.